3 plants on the left. 3 markets on the right. Each plant has goods waiting. Each market has orders to fill. And every single route between them charges its own price per unit. Now here is the uncomfortable part. 2 people can both ship every unit correctly, break no rule at all, and hand in bills that are not even close. 715. 335. Same goods. Less than half the money. So the real question was never can we ship everything. It is this. How do we land on the cheapest plan on purpose, and then prove that nothing cheaper exists? Let's pin down exactly what you are given. On the left, sources. Each one holds a fixed amount it must send out, 45, 25, and 30 units. On the right, destinations. Each one needs a fixed amount delivered, 30, 35, 35. Nothing more, nothing less. Every arc carries 2 numbers. One is fixed and known, the cost of moving a single unit along it. Call it 7.3 for the route from the first plant to the third market, here, 3. The other number is the one you get to choose, how many units you actually push down that route. That's X13. 9 routes here, so 9 choices, and they all have to add up correctly. A picture with 9 crossing arcs gets messy fast. So we lay the same information out as a grid instead. 1 row per plant, 1 column per market, and the crossing point of a row and a column is exactly 1 route. Small number in the corner of each cell, the unit cost. The big empty middle, the shipment you are about to decide. Down the right edge, the supply each row must send. Along the bottom, the demand each column must receive. Fill the middle of this grid so the rows add to their supplies and the columns add to their demands, and you have a shipping plan. That grid is the whole problem. Written out, the goal is short. Multiply each route's unit cost by the units you send along it, add all of that up, and make it as small as possible. 3 conditions keep the plan honest. Each row must ship out its entire supply. Each column must receive its full demand. And no route runs backwards, every shipment is 0 or positive. Linear objective, linear constraints, this is a linear program and the simplex method would solve it. But look at the constraints again. Every coefficient is just a 1. That much structure is a gift, and it buys us a method that is far quicker by hand. Everything that follows assumes one thing, total supply equals total demand. Real problems rarely arrive that way. Suppose our third plant could make 50 instead of 30. Now the plants hold 120 units, but the markets only want 100. The fix is a piece of honest fiction. Add a dummy market that soaks up the extra 20, and give every route into it a cost of 0. Units sent to that dummy are simply units that never left the warehouse. They cost nothing, so they can never bend the real routing, they just make the totals match, which is all the method needed. If instead demand had outrun supply, you would add a dummy plant the same way, and its shipments would be the orders you cannot fill. Before you can improve a plan, you need a plan. The quickest one ignores cost completely. Put your finger on the top left cell and ship as much as that row and column will allow. Whichever runs out, cross it off, and step to the next cell, right if the column filled, down if the row emptied. The first plant holds 45. The first market wants 30. 30 is the smaller number, so 30 units go here and that market is satisfied. 15 units are still sitting at the plant, so slide right, 15 more go to the second market, and now the plant is empty. Same rule again and again. 20 to the second market finishes it off. The 5 left at the second plant go to the last market. And the third plant sends its full 30 to the only column still open. Every row adds up. Every column adds up. It is a perfectly legal plan. Multiply each shipment by its unit cost, and the bill comes to 715. Notice what the method never once looked at. The costs. It walked by position, not by price, which is exactly why this number is usually so bad and why we are about to do better. Now let the prices lead. Scan the whole grid, find the cheapest cell anywhere in it, and pour as much through that route as supply and demand permit. Then repeat with the cheapest cell that's still available. The bargain of this grid is a cost of 2, from the third plant to the second market. Send 30, that plant is done. Next cheapest is 3, 35 along the top row to the last market, and that market is full. Then 4, 25 units from the second plant to the first market. What remains has no choice left in it, 5, and 5 out of the top row fill the last gaps. Add it up, 335. The same goods, the same rules, and we have knocked more than half the cost off just by letting the prices decide the order. There's a sharper way to choose. For every row, look at its 2 cheapest routes and take the difference. That gap is your penalty, what you'd lose if the bargain route got taken away and you had to settle for the runner-up. Do it for every row and every column. Rows give 3, 1 and 4. Columns give 3, 4 and 2. The biggest penalty wins, because that is the line you would regret most. Here the third plant's penalty of 4 is the loudest complaint on the board, so we serve it right now, along its own cheapest route, 30 units at a cost of 2. Then recompute the penalties on what's left and do it again, until the grid is full. On this data, Vogel's method lands on 335 as well. That is the usual story, penalties get you to the answer, or very close to it, before any correcting even begins. 335 looks good. But looking good is not proof. We need a test that either finds something cheaper or certifies that nothing cheaper exists. That test is beautifully simple. Give every row a number U, and every column a number V. Think of them as a price for leaving a plant and a price for arriving at a market. Demand that on every filled cell. Those 2 numbers add up exactly to that cell's real cost. 5 filled cells give 5 equations, but there are 6 unknowns. So we simply anchor 1, set the first row's U to 0. Everything else falls out one at a time. The top row is filled in all 3 columns, so with U0 the 3 Vs are just those costs, 8, 6 and 3. The second plant ships to the first market at 4, so its U is 4 minus 8 minus 4. The third plant ships at to where V is 6, so its U is minus 4 as well. Now the payoff. For every empty cell, subtract that same sum from the real cost. What you get is the true change in the total bill if you forced 1 unit down that unused route, including all the knock-on reshuffling it would trigger elsewhere. Run it on all 4 empty cells here, and every answer comes back positive. 7, 6, 3, 7. There is no route you could open that would not make things worse. That is the certificate. When every empty cell has a non-negative number, the plan cannot be improved, and 335 is the minimum. If even one of them came out negative, we would have work to do. Take the corner plan, the one that cost $7.15, and put it through the same test. This time the empty cells do not all behave. 3 of them come back negative, each one an opportunity we are currently wasting. Take the most negative one, -8, from the third plant to the second market. Every unit we manage to push through there should save us 8. So the question becomes, how many units can we push? You cannot just add units there, the row and column totals would break. So you work a closed loop. Step along the row to a filled cell, turn and step down the column to another, and keep turning until you arrive back where you started. Around that loop the corners alternate. Add here, subtract there, add, subtract. Every row and every column touched by the loop gains exactly as much as it loses, so the plan stays legal no matter how much we move. How much? However much the smallest subtracting corner can spare, because the moment one of them hits 0, we have to stop. Those corners hold 30 and 20, so 20 units go around the loop, and the cell that emptied drops out of the plan. 20 units, saving 8 apiece, 160 off the bill. 715 becomes 555 in a single readout. Then you test again, find the next negative cell, and reroute again. 555, 485, 335, and there the test comes back clean. Notice where it stopped, exactly the plan the cheapest cell rule handed us in one pass. Same destination, 3 extra rounds of work. One quiet rule has been holding all of this together. A proper basic solution fills exactly m plus n minus 1 cells. 3 rows, 3 columns, 5 cells. Where does that come from? 6 balance equations, but since total supply already equals total demand, one of them carries no new information. 5 independent equations, 5 unknowns to fill. That is also exactly how many equations the U and V test needs. Occasionally a row and a column empty at the very same moment, and you come up 1 cell short. That's degeneracy, and it stalls the test. You run out of equations, and some U or V can never be pinned down. The repair is a ghost shipment. Drop an epsilon, a quantity so small it adds nothing to the cost, into an empty cell, and treat that cell as occupied. Pick one that doesn't close a loop with the cells already filled, run the method normally, and throw the epsilon away at the end. So here is the whole thing on one screen. Balance the problem. Build any starting plan. Check that you have m plus n minus 1 filled cells. Test every empty cell with the potentials. And while any of them is negative, loop theta units into the worst offender and test again. And one habit worth keeping. The corner rule is quick to learn and slow to finish. Cheapest cell and penalties take a little more thought and often land you on the answer immediately. Buy the better start. Now shrink this problem until every supply and every demand equals 1. Each source serves exactly one destination. That special case is tight enough to deserve a method of its own, the assignment problem, and it's where we go next. Work the practice problems by hand, This method only really lands once you've drawn a loop yourself. See you in the next one.